Hello and welcome to Your Broken Galaxy. I am Broken, and today I'm asking the question, what if Padme told the Jedi about what Anakin did to the Tuskens? In Attack of the Clones, Anakin goes crazy and brings an entire tribe of sand people to their end. He lightsabers them to the great beyond, and once he has finished this act of unparalleled depravity, he goes to the woman who he had been creeping out with his seemingly predatory gazes and advances and tells her of how not just the men, but the women and the children were recipients of his unyielding rage. Padme, who has been obviously creeped out by all of his behavior and as of yet has not entered any kind of relationship with him, tries to comfort him. They end up flying to Geonosis to help save Obi-Wan. There's a big old fight, and instead of Padme declaring that she truly, deeply loves this profoundly disturbed individual and secretly marrying him because of his undeniable hotness, she gets a grip on herself and determines that maybe he isn't a good guy. Like, she knew him as a kid and he was kind, but his coming of age turned him into an absolute monster. So after the Battle of Geonosis, instead of Padme running up to Anakin and practically throwing herself at him in front of Master Yoda, she puts her hand on his shoulder and says, "Hey there, buddy, we're gonna get you a new arm." And then she walks over to Obi-Wan and says, "I need to talk to you in private now." And she tells him about Anakin's weekend hobby of ending entire tribes of Tuskens. And Obi-Wan is like, "Oh my." So, on the way back to Coruscant, Anakin is like all giddy. Like, the fool he is, he thinks that he just did a great job wooing Padme, and he's super excited for the war that just started. When they get back, they summon Anakin to the council chambers, and he's thinking, "Oh, this is great, they're gonna make me a Jedi Knight." And when he gets there, Yoda is like, "Much darkness there is in you, young Skywalker." And Anakin is like, "Whatever do you mean, Master?" And Mace is like, "You know what the heck he means, boy. You've gone and brought an entire tribe of Tuskens to the grave." And Anakin says, "There must be some mistake." And Obi-Wan says, "Anakin, don't." And Anakin is like internally freaking out here, and Yoda continues, "Tell us of your exploits on Tatooine, Senator Amidala." And Anakin feels betrayed, which of course he isn't. Padme owed no loyalty to this horrible human being, but he's like, "No." Anakin, Obi-Wan says, "Your actions were outside of Republic jurisdiction, but by the laws of order, you are under our jurisdiction. We are placing you under arrest for crimes against sentience." And Anakin is like, "No!" And he just runs towards the window. The Masters are utterly baffled, but he force pushes the window as hard as he can, shattering the glass and jumping out. "He's trying to escape," Ki-Adi-Mundi says. And so, like, 7 of the Masters just grab his falling body with the Force and start to pull him back up. And Anakin is like, "Why? This isn't fair." Mace pulls Anakin's lightsaber to himself and says, "Anakin, calm down." And Obi-Wan says, "Anakin, we're placing you in rehabilitative detention for no less than a year." A year?" Anakin asks. "Yes. Unfortunately, the way which you dealt with those 50 Tuskens was something we can't ignore." "A year?" Anakin asks again. "I'm afraid so." And Anakin starts to say, "So the fact that they ended my mother's life—" "Wait, what?" Plo asks. "They did that to your mother? The senator didn't mention that." "That changes things." "Indeed it does," Mace Windu says. "Very well, 9 months. I mean, it was still a horrible emotional outburst, and this is further proof that attachments are dangerous." "Indeed," Yoda says. 9 months, Anakin asks. "That is our decision," Obi-Wan says. 9 months and a day," Mace says. "He shattered the council chamber window. He's got to pay for that, too." Anakin started. I'm sorry for what I did, and for trying to escape. I accept your judgment, Masters." After the sentencing, Padme is sent a message by Obi-Wan, and he says, "Padme, thank you again for letting us know about Tatooine. You'll be happy to know that Anakin has been given a sentence of 9 months and 1 day of rehabilitative detention." And Padme is like, 9 freaking months? 9 freaking months for the lightsaber-based butchering of not just the men, but the women and children of an entire tribe? Oh, this will not stand. So Anakin goes to Jedi prison, where he is supposed to meditate all day, eats horrible Jedi food, and reflects on the Force. But honestly, that's the same thing that the Jedi do almost all the time. The only difference is he isn't getting to go on missions and isn't allowed to practice with his lightsaber. Meanwhile, Padme takes a motion to the Senate against the Jedi, and she's like, look, my fellows, the Jedi Order is totally insane. You all know that a group of Jedi helped save my planet, but seriously, it was the Jedi that got us into this war. A former Jedi is in charge of the Separatists, and you aren't going to believe this, but I just reported that a Jedi ended the lives of nearly 50 non-Force-using sentients in the Outer Rim, and all the punishment he received was 9 months in prison. So I propose we bring legislation against the Jedi that they are no longer allowed to try their own members, but instead their members must be tried by the courts, and the law passes immediately. So Padme is feeling super happy with herself when suddenly Anakin, in a speeder, flies up to her apartment because, there's nothing to prevent people from just flying up to her apartment and walking inside. Some people don't lock their doors, but she doesn't even have a door, just a massive gaping hole in the wall, open to anyone who wants to fly up and walk in. And Anakin's like, hello, Padme. And she's like, what are you doing here? And Anakin says, oh, they let me out. That was so nice of you proposing that legislation to get me out of jail. Huh? Padme says. Really smart of you. Since the Jedi couldn't try me, and I was outside of Republic's jurisdiction when I was on Tatooine, they just had to let me go. But Padme, to be honest, I think we need to take a break. And she is like, I'm sorry, I don't understand what's going on. So Anakin rolls his eyes and says, okay, Padme, you're a bit too clingy. I'm clingy, she asks. And Anakin says, hon, don't make this harder than it has to be. You reported me to the Order for going a little overboard when I took vengeance on my mom, and honestly, I get what you were trying to do. You wanted to help. I needed the help. I accepted the sentencing, but when the Jedi put me in prison for 9 months, which, let's be honest, it isn't that long of a time, you couldn't bear to be apart from me for that long, so you went to the Galactic Senate and you had them change the law to get me free. Sweetie, you're too attached. And I think I'm gonna need you to back off, okay? Padme stammers. I know. I'm going to go win this war you started now, Anakin says while rolling his eyes again. I hope you get the help you need. Padme still can hardly speak at this point. She's just stammering like an idiot. Anakin nods. Great, hon. Have a nice life, he says as he jumps into his speeder and flies off. That is my video for today. I actually, while I was writing this, ended up taking it in kind of like a dark direction, where when Anakin shows up at Padme's office, they have this huge back and forth about how he's like upset at her for betraying him by, talking to the Jedi about it, but then he forgives her because she went through all the trouble of changing the law to get him out, and it was like, I realized it was like way too heavy, like the gaslighting, the narcissism, the kind of darkness of the situation, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna keep it light, but I want to know what you guys think. Would you like to see me do non-comedy what-if scenarios or things like that? I know there's a whole lot of people that do that already, which is why I've kind of stuck with comedy now for over 100 videos. But yeah, just let me know. I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and all that garbage.